All right, can you see my slides all right?
Yep, everything looks good.
Did it just switch to a different slide?
Yes, it did.
Okay. All right, let's get started then. When quarantine first began, it was like the world had turned to black and white. One by one, everything I was excited about was canceled. A kind of hopelessness began to creep up on me. Out of a need to do something, to bring some kind of color back into my life, I started painting Van Gogh's Starry Night, using an old Python since I didn't have a canvas. That one painting turned into a new daily habit. I experimented with shading and light and color. As I improved, I became more observant of the beauty out my window and in my backyard. I started going out on my porch in the morning to look at the sky. And I saw more color than I have ever noticed before. Vincent van Gogh once said, "Poetry surrounds us everywhere, and artists teach us to see." Studying the artwork and hearing the story of Vincent van Gogh made sure my quarantine didn't stay black and white. Instead, Vincent taught me to see more beauty and more color than I have ever seen. Today, I'm going to share with you Vincent van Gogh's inspiring life story and artwork, and how it should change the way we see the world. All information comes from the Van Gogh Museum, the Van Gogh Gallery, biography.com, Cornell University, Goodreads, and the U.S. National Library of Medicine. All images come from wikiart.org, wikimedia.org, and the Museum of Modern Art. Vincent van Gogh never planned to be a painter. Instead, he dedicated his life to God and became a Christian missionary. He volunteered to go to the poorest, dirtiest coal mining district in France. Although he was horrified by the extreme poverty, he was inspired by the courageous people he met. The beauty he saw in them inspired him to paint. Vincent wrote to his brother, "I would sooner paint people's eyes than cathedrals. For there is something in the eyes that is lacking in a cathedral. To my mind, a man's soul, be it that of a poor beggar or of a streetwalker, is more interesting." Vincent found beauty in desperation and starvation, dirt and darkness. If beauty can be found there, it can be found anywhere. This realization inspired Vincent to take on painting as a career. Unfortunately, all of his books on painting were in black and white, so he left his countryside home for Paris to learn about color from the artists there. He learned that contrasting colors on opposite sides of the color wheel can reinforce each other, and invented his own unique style to make use of this. If you look closely at this self-portrait, the colors don't make any sense. Dark green, red, yellow, and blue don't belong side by side on a face. But if you step back, it somehow works. Yellow and blue and green and red are on opposite sides of the color wheel. Putting them next to each other makes the whole painting pop. This painting here on the left was one of the most popular portraits in the year Vincent painted his self-portrait. Vincent's style was so unconventional, he was only able to sell a single painting in his lifetime. When Vincent became more aware of color, it changed the way he saw the world. When he returned home to the countryside, he said he saw more color in the fields there than he ever had before. As Vincent's skill grew, painting became less of a career and more of a battle for sanity. Today, experts believe Vincent suffered from a dangerous combination of severe mental illnesses. During periods of intense anxiety and depression, Vincent began to wonder if his paintings really were as worthless as he was told. He said he was, quote, mentally crushed and physically drained. The only thing that kept Vincent going was his art and the beauty it allowed him to see. It was during one of these periods, in a fit of intense depression, that Vincent cut off one of his own ears. He was immediately sent to a mental asylum where he was locked in a room with bars on the single window. It was on a sleepless night. Through that window, that Vincent painted his masterpiece. He included almost no black because, quote, I often think that the night is more alive and more richly colored than the day. Let's take a closer look. The contrast of yellow and white in the center of these stars creates an effect called luminance, the reason the stars look like they're flickering. Modern-day physicists have discovered that the swirls of wind in the center of the painting line up almost exactly with the true movement of the wind and how it affects the air around it. Unlike most Impressionists, Vincent didn't paint to escape his dark circumstances. Instead of painting a dreamy scene from his imagination, Vincent said his goal in every painting was to portray something, quote, more true than the literal truth. Vincent's life was often darker than I could imagine, but he was still looking for and finding beauty right where he was. His story reminds me of what Paul says in Philippians 4:11. I have learned to be content, whatever the circumstances. Unfortunately, Vincent lived in a time when mental illness was still a mystery, even to his doctors, when the most popular treatment for epilepsy was a hot bath. In his final mental breakdown, only a year after painting Starry Night, Vincent shot himself, alone in a wheat field. Vincent's mental illness and lack of treatment truly doomed him from the start. It was a miracle. He held on to his sanity as long as he did. Today, experts believe Vincent's art helped to balance his turbulent emotions and gave him the strength to keep fighting. That his art and the beauty it helped him see added years to his lifetime. Vincent's story taught me that art is powerful, and his art allowed me to experience that power for myself. At first, I thought this was just a speech about Vincent, but really, this is the story of my escape from a colorless quarantine. Every new fact I learned about Vincent's life, every new painting I discovered, every slide I designed for this speech was a spark of color. Color I really needed. Studies have found that art decreases stress and anxiety, increases confidence and self-esteem, and even lowers blood pressure. Just like when Vincent returned home from Paris, he saw more color. When you appreciate art, you start seeing more beauty in the rest of the world too. And seeing that beauty makes you happier, healthier, and even more grateful. Every morning when I get in the car, I look up at the sky and remember all the colors Vincent found in it. I try to see my sky through Vincent's eyes. And that helps me to find something beautiful, something to thank God for every day, rain or shine. Here's my challenge for you. Make art part of your life. That can mean making art yourself, visiting an art museum, or even just going to wikiart.org to see their art of the day. You don't have to be an artsy person to experience the powerful impact art can have on your outlook. Even my dad, who's a mathematically minded engineer, not to mention colorblind, said he was inspired by Vincent's creative compositions and brushstrokes. God has placed beautiful things all around you that he wants you to see. When you find something beautiful, you are seeing God's hand working in your world. And appreciating art makes you better at finding those beautiful things. As Vincent put it, if one feels the need of something grand, something infinite, something that makes one feel aware of God, one need not go far to find it. Thank you. My time was 9 minutes and 37 seconds.
Thank you, Danielle. 9 minutes and 37 seconds.
Thanks, Danielle.
Thank you all so much for judging today.
Have a blessed day.